Most people are eating themselves sick, and they have no idea, not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, but because the foods they've been told are healthy are quietly working against them. I've been there, years of doing everything right, and still feeling tired, inflamed, foggy. And the shift happened when I stopped following the generic advice and started paying attention to what actually keeps insulin low, because that's the real game here. Most chronic disease traces back to one root problem: chronically elevated insulin. When insulin stays high, your body stores fat, breeds inflammation, and slowly breaks down, and almost every processed food on the shelf is designed to spike it. The good news? There are foods that do the opposite. Foods so dense in nutrition that a small amount changes how your body functions on a cellular level. I'm going to walk you through 10 of them, and one of them, I'll get to it near the end, has an effect on your brain and your mood that honestly sounds made up until you experience it yourself. Let's start with the one most people walk right past in the grocery store: sauerkraut. Not the shelf-stable kind in the jar. That's been pasteurized, heated until the microbes are dead, which is precisely the reason you'd be eating it in the first place. You want raw sauerkraut, refrigerated, still alive. 1 cup of this fermented cabbage contains around 1.9 grams of net carbs, almost nothing, but what it does contain is extraordinary. Research suggests sauerkraut may be one of the most potent probiotic sources available, more concentrated than most commercial yogurts or kefir products. A single cup can provide vitamin C levels that far exceed the recommended daily intake. But the nutrient most people have never heard of is vitamin U, technically called S-methylmethionine. This compound is known to support the mucosal lining of the digestive tract. If you've ever dealt with gastritis, ulcers, or persistent gut inflammation, this is worth paying attention to. Sauerkraut also contains vitamin K2, produced by the microbes themselves during fermentation. K2 helps direct calcium away from soft tissues, arteries, joints, and toward the bones where it belongs. 1/2 to 1 cup a day is all you need. Put it on the plate like a condiment. Now here's the question. If fermented cabbage is doing all of that, what's the simplest green you can add to any salad that does something comparable for your cardiovascular system? Arugula. And the reason is nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a compound that causes blood vessels to relax and widen. Vasodilation. It keeps blood pressure from climbing, reduces arterial inflammation, and supports circulation throughout the entire body. Arugula contains more nitric oxide precursors than virtually any other food. It's also a cruciferous vegetable, which means it carries the anti-cancer compounds, like sulforaphane, that have been studied extensively. Add extra virgin olive oil on top, and you're not just making it taste better. The fat in olive oil actually helps your body absorb the fat-soluble phytonutrients in the greens. More on olive oil in a minute. Number 3 is wild-caught salmon, and the key word is wild-caught. Farm salmon often involves antibiotics, synthetic pigments to color the flesh, and feed that doesn't replicate what salmon eat in the wild. Wild-caught is the equivalent of organic. The fish lived as it was designed to. 3 ounces of wild salmon provides roughly 2,000 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids. That's a combination of DHA, which is critical for brain structure and retinal function, and EPA, which research consistently identifies as a powerful anti-inflammatory. If you deal with any kind of chronic inflammation, joint pain, stiffness, systemic inflammation, omega-3 is one of the most important nutrients to increase. People worry about mercury in fish. With salmon, the concern is substantially reduced because salmon is high in selenium, which binds to mercury and supports its removal from the body. Eat it with the skin. The layer just beneath the skin is dense with omega-3s and collagen. Aim for salmon or similar fatty fish a few times per week. But if you want even more omega-3 in a small package, there's something most people have never considered: canned cod liver. Not cod liver oil, though that has its own benefits. The actual liver of the codfish, canned. It's fattier than salmon and higher in omega-3 by comparison. I know it sounds unusual, but the texture is soft, almost like a pâté, and the taste is mild. The fat profile is exceptional for brain function and nervous system support. And here's the thing, I had assumed for years that the canning process would destroy the omega-3s. So I actually sent samples to a lab, canned tuna, canned sardines, cod liver, and had them tested. The results matched the labels. The omega-3s survived the process. You can find canned cod liver online easily. It's harder to track down in a typical grocery store. Number 5 is one that will probably surprise you: ground beef. Not a fast food burger. Grass-fed ground beef. When an animal eats grass, what it evolved to eat, the nutritional profile of its meat changes significantly. The fat content improves, the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 improves, and the meat itself becomes more bioavailable. One thing worth knowing about protein: lean protein spikes insulin more than protein that comes with its natural fat. Egg whites without the yolk. Whey protein powder. These produce a higher insulin response than whole eggs or fattier cuts of meat. So I'd recommend the 80/70 ground beef over the lean version. The fat slows digestion, improves amino acid absorption, and keeps insulin lower. Grass-fed ground beef also contains carnosine, an antioxidant compound linked to cellular longevity, as well as creatine, zinc, B vitamins, and the most bioavailable form of iron available in any food. The data suggesting red meat causes disease is not supported by quality research when you're talking about grass-fed, unprocessed meat. My own health improved substantially when red meat became a foundation of my diet. Now, Brazil nuts. Just 1 or 2 per day. That's the recommendation. Not a handful. 1 or 2. Here's why. Brazil nuts contain more selenium than any other food on the planet. And selenium is one of the most underappreciated minerals in human health. It's essential for the thyroid, specifically for converting T4 into T3, the active form of thyroid hormone. Many people diagnosed with hypothyroidism are not iodine deficient. They're selenium deficient, and the soil in most regions no longer contains adequate levels. But the immune system connection is what most people don't know. Selenium is required for certain T helper cells to function. These cells are essentially the command structure of your immune response. They direct the body's defenses against viruses, bacteria, and abnormal cell growth. Without sufficient selenium, that command structure is compromised. Research has also linked selenium deficiency to thyroid autoimmune conditions, fertility issues in both men and women, and hair loss including alopecia, which is an autoimmune condition. 1 or 2 Brazil nuts per day is enough to cover your daily selenium requirement. More than that consistently can lead to toxicity. 1 or 2. That's the dose. Number 7, extra virgin olive oil. And the word extra virgin actually matters. Real extra virgin olive oil has a distinct characteristic: a slight peppery burn at the back of the throat. That sensation comes from oleocanthal, a polyphenol with anti-inflammatory properties. If your olive oil is completely smooth with no bite, it may be adulterated, mixed with cheaper oils, which is unfortunately common. The phytonutrient content of genuine extra virgin olive oil has been measured at roughly 20 times the antioxidant potency of green tea. It supports mitochondrial function, the energy-producing structures in every cell. It's anti-inflammatory, and critically, it has anti-clotting properties. Around 90% of heart attacks are caused by blood clots, not plaque alone. Olive oil consumed regularly may help reduce that clotting tendency. Source it from a reputable brand, ideally with a harvest date on the label. Now the 3 bonus foods. And the last one? That's the one I promised you at the start. First, quality cheese. Full fat, aged, ideally raw, not processed slices. Real cheese is a fermented food. It contains live microbes, which benefit the gut. It's high in vitamin K2. It contains CLA, a fatty acid that research associates with improved body composition. And because fermentation consumes the lactose, it's low in carbohydrates. Most people who believe they're lactose intolerant tolerate aged cheese without issue. It's also high in butyric acid, which feeds the cells lining your colon. Second, dark chocolate. At least 85% cacao, or raw cacao powder mixed into something. Dark chocolate is dense in polyphenols and, like arugula, increases nitric oxide, supporting circulation and arterial health. Some people avoid it due to oxalate content, but dark chocolate is also high in magnesium, which binds to oxalates and helps neutralize them. Magnesium itself is deficient in a large portion of the population. It regulates calcium, supports muscle relaxation, improves sleep, and reduces cortisol. The craving many people feel for chocolate may actually be the gut microbiome sending signals. The microbes that thrive on the polyphenols in cacao are asking to be fed. At 85% or higher, the net carb content is low enough to fit within most dietary approaches. A square or 2 after a meal is enough. And the last one, this is the one I mentioned at the beginning. Reuteri yogurt. This is not something you'll find at the grocery store. Reuteri is a specific strain of bacteria that research suggests has largely disappeared from the modern gut, depleted by antibiotics, formula feeding in infancy, and the absence of fermented foods in the typical diet. You can make it at home with a yogurt maker and a reuteri culture. Half a cup a day is sufficient. Here's what makes it remarkable. Reuteri appears to stimulate the body's production of oxytocin, the hormone associated with social bonding, trust, and reduced stress, not by supplying oxytocin directly, by sending signals through the vagus nerve to the brain to produce more of it. That's an entirely different mechanism. When I first started consuming it consistently, my wife noticed a change before I did. More engaged, more physically affectionate, more present. The microbe was changing my neurochemistry through the gut-brain axis. There is research behind this. It's not anecdotal. Reuteri has also been studied in connection with increased muscle mass, improved sleep quality, and reduction of SIBO symptoms, the bloating and discomfort caused by bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. So here's the thread running through all 10 of these foods. None of them spike insulin. All of them are nutrient-dense rather than calorie-dense. Most of them support the gut microbiome. And several of them, sauerkraut, arugula, olive oil, salmon, dark chocolate, address chronic inflammation directly, which is the underlying condition behind most of what makes people feel unwell as they age. At the start of this, you might have been thinking about food as fuel, something you optimize around macros or calories. These foods suggest a different frame, food as information. Every meal sends signals to your hormones, your microbiome, your immune system. The question isn't just what gives you energy, it's what are you telling your body to do. Tomorrow, pick one of these foods and add it. Just one. The easiest starting point is probably a half cup of raw sauerkraut with your next meal. Low cost, immediate access, and the research behind it is solid. Do that consistently for a week and pay attention to how your digestion feels. Which of these foods do you already eat? And which ones have you been avoiding because of something you heard years ago that might not have been accurate? I'm genuinely curious, especially about the red meat one. Let me know in the comments. Next video, I'm going to walk through exactly how to make reuteri yogurt at home, the culture to use, the temperature, the timing, and what to watch for the first week. If this video changed how you're thinking about food, subscribe. The next one builds on it directly. Everything here is based on current research and personal experience. It's not medical advice. If you're managing a specific health condition, loop in your doctor before making significant changes to your diet. But as a starting point for thinking differently about what you eat every day, this is where I'd begin.